I spoke to Hamas, and if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently.
This peace process, the rebuilding, which really amounts to the rebuilding process, is going to have some major stumbling blocks. If you don't have the security, you can't rebuild. That's basically the bottom line here.
With that, let's bring in Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired General Jack Keane. General, thanks for being here. You know, the president went to Truth Social. He said the job is not done. All 20 hostages are back and feeling as good as can be expected. A big burden has been lifted, but the job is not done. The dead have not been returned as promised. Phase 2 begins right now. President DJT, they know this is a heavy lift. The second part.
Yeah, I mean, it really is challenging. Certainly getting Hamas to release all the hostages as to a partial release, that was a major deal in itself. But the second phase is considerably more challenging for a couple of reasons. The primary one is Hamas, to make the deal, said that yes, they would disarm, yes, they would give up governance. But also at the press conference in the White House, when the deal was announced, the president made a statement that if Hamas reneged on disarming, then he would permit the IDF, ordered by Prime Minister Netanyahu, to go back in and finish it. I think the International Stabilization Force would try to do that first. But for our audience to understand, peace enforcement forces only work when both sides are cooperating. There's been a UN peace enforcement force in Lebanon for 2 decades, and Hezbollah has moved south every single year to do something against Israel, and they've never stopped them. So likely the card that would have to be played would be the IDF and Netanyahu going back in there to do that, and that's what really the president's talking about here.
All right, let's turn to another topic. AP, Russian aerial attack hits Ukrainian hospital. This is just days before President Zelensky arrives here in the White House, launching, the Russians did, a powerful glide bombs and drones against Ukraine's second largest city in overnight attacks, hitting a hospital, wounding 7 people. We've seen these attacks and in the increase. President Trump talked about possibly using Tomahawk missiles on Monday. Take a listen.
They need Patriots very badly. They'd like to have Tomahawks. That's a step up. They'd like to have Tomahawks. We talked about that. I might have to speak to Russia, to be honest with you, about Tomahawks. Do they want to have Tomahawks going in their direction? I don't think so. I might say, look, if this war's not going to get settled, I'm going to send them Tomahawks. I may say that.
Sending Tomahawks to the Ukrainians, which they're requesting to strike deeper into Russia.
Well, let's just talk about that for a second. Putin is saying that's an escalation. That's another false statement. This guy has made one false statement after another. In 22, Putin began to fire hypersonic ballistic missiles against Ukraine, largely civilian targets. He's been firing air-launched and sea-launched cruise missiles against civilian targets and energy infrastructure for the last 2+ years, in addition to those 500 to 600 drones a night that you're seeing there. He's the guy that escalated. All of his targets are largely civilian targets. If the Ukrainians get the Tomahawk missiles, what are they going to use them for? Their number one target will be the Abaluga manufacturing center for Shahed missiles, built by Ukraine. 20,000 North Koreans are there at that manufacturing center, Brett. It's out of the range of everything they have right now. That'll be target one, but they'll all be military targets. Ukraine is not going to target civilian targets. And what Putin is trying to do with President Trump is the same thing he successfully did with Biden. Threaten escalation if you do X, and there'll be something to come against you as a result of it. And he won that bluff with Biden time and time again. I don't think he'll win it with President Trump.
You know, Zelensky expressed hope in the wake of what he saw in Gaza that this could lead to something else. Geopolitically, with a win like we saw in the Middle East for President Trump, does that affect Russia? Does that affect China and how they look at things?
Oh, absolutely. Just as weakness affects them. The fact that they become so aggressive during the previous administration is because they believed the American leadership was weak and they could take advantage of it. And the facts spoke to that as well. The attack that President Trump ordered on the nuclear sites, the decisive blow, got their attention. And
in Iran.
Yeah, in Iran. And what is happening right here now with the somewhat defeat of Iran and the proxies and moving forward to peace and stability in the region, all engineered by who? American leadership on a world stage setting the whole standard for what's to be accomplished. This is what they're trying to depose. They want to have that influence, and here we have a president doing it. You betcha they're paying attention.
I want to talk about the Pentagon and covering the Pentagon. There are these new stipulations, new rules that have been put out, and we in the media, along with all the networks and also newspapers, had a media statement to respond. It was due today, and here it is. Today we join virtually every other news organization in declining to agree to the Pentagon's new requirements, which would restrict journalists' abilities to keep the nation and the world informed of important national security issues. The policy is without precedent and threatens core journalistic protections. We will continue to cover the U.S. military, as each of our organizations has done for many decades, upholding the principles of a free and independent press. That's ABC News, CBS News, CNN, Fox News Media, and NBC News signing that. Here is the Secretary of War at the cabinet meeting in his interpretation of what all this means.
You have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world. Or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff.
Kind of simplified it there than what's on the paper. I covered the Pentagon for 6.5 years. I covered the White House for 4 years. I covered the Pentagon when you were there.
Yeah, right.
And we knew not to, you don't walk into the tank, and the classified areas are off limits. We obviously were always trying to get the story from different elements, and there was a freedom, but everybody had badges with them. At the White House, I never walked into the Oval Office or the Situation Room. These are stipulations that essentially are changing the dynamic about how to get information and how they disseminate information.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like the whole story is being told to our viewers here. What they're really doing, they want to spoon feed information to the journalists, and that will be their story. That's not journalism. Journalism is going out and finding the story and getting all the facts to support it. And no one's going to walk in and bang on the door of a four-star general or senior civilian policy leader in the Pentagon. I never had that, but I did have journalists chasing a story of something that was going on in the Army, and those things were legitimate. And if anything, what would frustrate us in times is we didn't beat you to it. And something bad is happening, and we're getting our act together to do it. And sometimes, you know, well, let's wait a couple of days before we talk about that, and you guys are on it. And that's journalism.
And we know the stipulations about classified information, and if there are leaks or there are situations, there are investigations many times that lead to that. But in the day-to-day, for military families, for military, us being in the Pentagon is usually an asset.
Yeah, I have never, ever seen it. I mean, when I was a four-star general, I insisted that all our new brigadier generals get a class a few days on what the role of the media is in an American democracy. These are all for new generals. And then I wanted them to practice and get interviews and how to deal with the realities of this, because they have all these incredible warfighting skill sets, but dealing with the media isn't one of them. And so the education of them was very important to me, so they would welcome and don't see the media as something to be intimidated by. See the media as your conduit to the American people. And that's how I always saw it and believed in supporting it. There were times when stories were done that make me flinch a little bit. Yeah, but that's usually because we had done something that wasn't as good as we should have done it.
Well, we're all standing in solidarity, almost all of us, and we hope that changes. We'll see where this policy goes. General, as always, thank you.
Yeah, great talking to you, Brett.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.